Now, the third service characteristic is called the variability, the concept of variability, or we often refer to it as the concept of heterogeneity. Now, before I start this concept, I would like you to think about one typical example that I have in my mind. For example, if you talk about yourself while studying in the same university, or you talk about the faculty members who are teaching in the same university, what you will see is that not all the faculty members will be equally competent. You will also see that being in the same class, not all of the students will be equally competent. Not all the doctors who got graduated from the same, medical college will be equally competent. Why is that? The reason is that the quality of the service depends upon the quality of the service provider, which also means it's a distinguishing characteristic of service that reflects the variation in consistency from one service transaction to another. Who is providing them, where is providing them, how much qualified they are, how much effort they put in. So basically, the concept of the service delivery, which is referred to as the heterogeneity, is the concept which says that the quality of the service depends upon the quality of the service provider. So it refers to one thing, that heterogeneity is mostly relevant in service sector. But when you talk about the concept of heterogeneity, you will see that in manufacturing sector, we can make sure that a single product, and if you create multiple units of that single product, all of them will be having the same quality. So the concept of standardization, which reflects to the standardization of the quality, the standardization of the conformity of the quality practices will remain. Singular will remain uniform throughout the entire manufacturing process. With that same situation cannot be evident in terms of services. So a single manufacturing plant can produce millions of units and they can have the same service quality, but not all the university students will have the same level of competency. Not all the faculty members teaching in the same university will be equally competent, and so on. So why is that? Is because of the quality of the service depends upon the quality of the service providers. The people who provide the services, they cannot be standardized. They cannot be manufactured in a factory. They are not robots that can actually be standardized. However, we have tried over the years to create some sort of standardization in the service sector by using different tools and techniques like different softwares, different machineries, and all of these tools and techniques, they have been instrumental in achieving the uniformity. They have been instrumental in reducing the effects of variability and heterogeneity. But still, when you talk about people provision of the service, you will realize that heterogeneity is very much in play, and that is one of the biggest challenges of services as well. Now, let's talk about few of the challenges that are being created because of heterogeneity. The first thing is the standardization and quality control are difficult to achieve, and that is because of the variation in employees. That is also because of the variation in the same employees. So one day you go to the job and you have a great mood, you are full of passion and motivation to, work for your job. The next day you have some mood swings, and you're not feeling good about yourself, or you are not feeling good about your life or something, and then you go over there and got mood swing or something, or not feeling motivated towards your job, you're not performing well, and that's these kind of things, they actually create a lot of variations among the same employees, and these kind of things cannot be standardized because employees, they are not manufactured on the manufacturing plant. So what you need to realize here is that the standardization and the quality control is one of the biggest challenges of the heterogeneity, and that probably is one of the only challenges we face because of the concept of variability of the heterogeneity. But we call it is called the standardization and quality control are difficult to achieve, but we can achieve standardization, we can achieve quality control in terms of manufacturing. So what to do? What solutions do we have when we talk about the concept of heterogeneity? We can pursue the customization strategy. We can customize the services for the consumers if we cannot standardize them. So people can be happy in two ways. They can be happy if you put standardization and quality, or you can customize the product according to their needs and wants. So every person will have an individual evaluation of the service quality. So if you talk about customization, customization is the individual standardization. The opposite of standardization is customization. So customization is the individual standardization. So if I cannot provide you a standardized quality, what I can do is I can customize the service quality as per your needs and wants. So I can convert my programs, I can convert my flights, I can convert my medical services as per clients need. But remember one thing, that customization can be a tricky strategy. It can be very expensive strategy sometimes. It can it can increase the prices. It can, it may not be feasible as per your assembly lines, or as per your what do you call it, uh, there's a simple concept which is called the supply chain. Sorry, I was referring to the concept of supply chain. That's customization sometimes are not friendly when you talk about a supply chain. So you need to remember one thing, that either customization is suitable for your organization or not. So we are going to discuss customization in a little bit detail when we will meet in the class. For now, what you need to remember is that customization can be a little bit tricky strategy, but that is one solution to resolve the issues of heterogeneity, because of we are facing a lot of challenges. So other thing is you can go for standardization, but how can you achieve standardization, because we do not have a service being manufactured in the plant. What we can do is we can put a lot of effort on the training of the employees, or we can replace the human by the machine. So in front of you are these strategies that are more suitable when you talk about service standardization. So you can go for intensive training of the employee. If they are standardized, if they are trained well, so they know how to deal with service. So every employee of yours will be providing the same kind of service, because they are trained well. They have been trained on same processes, they have been trained on same parameters. So these parameters are going to define the quality of the service provider. So the second thing is the replacing human labor with machines. So if you talk about ATM machines, you talk about different technologies, you talk about different kind of applications that you use, these techniques, these technologies, these software, they can actually replace the human labor, and they can actually achieve standardization. So that is one way to achieve standardization. That these are the ways through which you can reduce the effects of heterogeneity. In front of you is simply a table that can help you. So you can see the only issue created by heterogeneity is the concept of standardization and quality control. They're difficult to achieve, and either you can achieve it through pursue the customization strategy, or you can resolve the issue by pursuing the standardization strategy. Now, the last and the most important issue is called the concept of perishability, which says the services cannot be stored for later use. Their unused capacity cannot be reserved, or they cannot be inventoried. So basically, if you remember our earlier discussion about the intangibility, we were discussing the fact that services cannot be inventory, and inventory requires a tangible existence of the product, and since services they do not have intangible existence, they cannot be stored, and because of the lack of storageability, they cannot be saved, the unused capacity cannot be reserved, and they cannot be inventory. So in front of you are a very simple explanation of what is called perishability, but remember this perishability issue, it can create a lot of issues for organizations in terms of supply and demand, in terms of the provision of the service, in terms of the reservation system. Just because something cannot be stored, it cannot be marketed as in a similar way as we can market the goods. The distribution is effective, their imports and exports are effective, because they do not have any physical existence, and because of that they cannot be stored for later use. So what kind of issues we can see because of perishability? We have issues matching the supply and demand, because sometimes demand exceeds supply, sometimes demand exceeds optimal level of supply, sometimes there's a below optimal level of supply, or there's equal demand and supply. And these four issues, they are going to create two types of issues for us, and we are going to talk about two different types of strategies. One strategy will talk about how to manage the demand, and the second thing is the set of strategies which can actually help us out in how to manage the supply. So basically we have two kind of issues we see in terms of perishability. We have demand issues and we have the supply issues. So we are going to discuss different strategies through which we can manage the demand, and the second thing, we have some sort of strategies through which we can manage the supply. But you need to remember one thing, and these supply and demand issues, they're only there because of the lack of physical evidence, and because of the lack of physical evidence we do not have inventory methods. We cannot store them for later use. Why do we need inventory? Why do we need to store something? Because we need to forecast the demand. We should be able to use it for the later use. We can always reserve its unused capacity. You cannot use one thing, you can store it, you can freeze it out, but these kind of facilities that actually exist, that actually affect the very consumption pattern of the consumers, these things cannot be done because of the fact that they do not have any physical existence in services. So we have two sets of issues in our hand. We have to meet the demand issues, and we also have to meet the supply issues. So let's talk about different strategies we can use in order to manage the demand, in order to manage the supply. So let's talk about the demand strategy. You can use creative pricing strategies to smooth the demand. So you come across different kind of restaurants, you may come across different kind of places where you may have to wait, and the demand is so much that people may have to wait for hours and hours in order to get their service. What organizations can do, they cannot actually make sure how many customers will be coming on daily basis because they do not have any storage capacity. One day there are 100 customers, the next day there's 50 customers, the other day are 300 customers. So the issue is that creative pricing strategy is one way in order to manage the supply and demand. So you can come up with early bird special, or you can come with matinee systems to which you can remove, you can actually manage the flow from peak hours to non-peak hours. So if your restaurants or your facility is crowded in noon time, you can shift the pricing, you can shift the demand to evening time. Or you have a crowded people in evening time, you can move the demand to the noon time. And let's like different restaurants who have different special offers in the morning time or in the noon time for different kind of students or different kind of family trees, and they actually put different kind of pricing strategies so they can actually separate the different types of customer. You may have come across different shows or matinee shows offered by different cinemas who believe that during the evening time or during the weekend time, people are crowded in front of different cinema halls. Everyone want to watch the movie in the evening time, but since the movies, they have limited capacity, since they cannot store the service, so they cannot manufacture the service. So what they have in hand, what they can do is they can shift the demand from peak hours to non-peak hours. So they actually come up with new strategies. What they can do is they can implement a new show that actually starts in the noon time, let's say at 12 o'clock or 2 o'clock, so they can move the demand from peak hours to non-peak hours, and they can reduce the price at that time. So the people who are going at the noon time, what they can do is or afternoon time, they need to have some sort of a advantage, and that advantage mostly comes in terms of pricing. So we are going to discuss this in a little bit more detail and we'll meet in the class. For now, you need to understand the concept of creative pricing is moving the shift from peak hours to non-peak hours. Or you can come up with the concept of reservation system. A reservation system is a very what you call it, this thing is not considered that much serious when it comes to its application. People actually use it, but they don't actually realize, they underestimate the effects of reservation systems on managing supply and demand. So you have to go even there and you have to wait for hours, but they will never implement the reservation system. So through reservation system, they can help themselves and the customers in a lot of ways. So we are going to discuss, this is actually a question for you people to look after, that how a reservation system can help organization in managing supply and demand. So demand strategy, since we are discussing about the demand strategy, you need to understand the customer has reduced stress and wait time. The firm can prepare in advance for known quantity of demand. So these two are the biggest advantages you can face because of reservation systems. But when you talk about the implementation of a reservation system, that is another story. Sometimes reservation system is not that much bother. They are understudied, they are underprivileged. So basically organizations who actually implement the reservation system, they do not understand this implication, how this reservation system should be implemented, the strategy. They lack the strategy component in this. Let's talk about the shift demand to the complementary service. Sometime if you believe that there is a wait involved in the supply of the service, you can move the demand to the complementary services. So what you can do is you have the driving range at golf courses, the arcade at the movie theaters, reading material at the doctor offices. These are all the different strategies, the tactics through which you can move the demand to the complementary services. So by the time you will receive your original service for which you have paid, your wait time will not go untouched. Your wait time will not go wasted, and you will not feel that much bothered because you were utilizing that time in some sort of an activity, and that activity actually is an important stuff. So we will discuss them in detail. We meet in the class the concept of complementary services. For now, you just need to remember its basic rudimentary effect on the demand side. And develop a non-peak demand period. Just like I mentioned earlier, you can shift the demand from peak hours to non-peak hours. You can work on the non-peak hours, so you can train your employees, you can target new segments of the customers, you can prepare for the peak hours in advance. That's another strategy you can use at the demand stage. Look, I have just discussed that. So let's talk about the supply strategy. So as I mentioned earlier, that we need to separate the demand from the supply side. The demand strategies are managed separately, the supply strategies are managed separately. So let's see what kind of strategy we have in terms of supply side. You can use the part-time employees just because you are not actually sure 100% how much demand you will be facing. So you are not sure about the supply side as well. So you actually exactly, sometime it happens that you are not sure about how many employees you can use. So hiring full-time employees may not be a feasible idea. It may not be a financially feasible idea. What you can do is You can hire some part-time employees who can work for you at the time of peak demand, and when you believe that the peak demand is gone, you can just terminate them, or you can allocate them into some different places. So it allows the flexibility and labor costs as well, and sometimes causes consumers to associate the firm with lower job skills, because one thing you need to remember is that those people who are working here part-time, they may not be fully committed to the organization, they may not be that much skilled as compared to the full-time employees, but it all depends upon the type of organization you're running. So if you talk about a fast food restaurants where standardized procedure are used, it's okay not to use full-time job employees. But you're talking about gourmet restaurants, you talk about high quality service like university education sectors, you will realize that hiring a part-time employee or visiting professor or visiting faculty member may not always be a bright idea, because these people may not show that much commitment to the job as compared to the other people who are working there full time. So this is another risk which is associated with the concept of using the part-time employees. Now you can do is you can share the capacity if you believe that your capacity is so much underutilized and you have a lot of space on your hand or a lot of resources on your hand, and these resources they may not be coming up that much strong because of the lack of the customers. What you can do is you can share the capacity with the other businesses. So in morning time you can allocate your office space to other people who can use it for some other purpose, and in the evening time. Now this model is being used all over the world, especially in restaurant sector. Organizations who have large spaces, what they do is they outsource or lease their offices in the morning time. These offices are used by other employees. In the evening they convert the entire space into different kind of restaurants or different kind of other places. So capacity sharing is another strategy through which you can manage the supply side, or you can prepare in advance for expansion. That is an amazing strategy, because you need to understand that if you are not able to estimate the supply of the customers, if you're not able to estimate the demand and the supply, you will never be able to expand in the future, because you need to know how much customer you are getting on a daily basis. You need to understand how much business you are receiving, and the forecasting techniques are one ways through which you can manage the entire demand and supply balances. So if you are not aware about the customers, if you're not aware about how many customers you're receiving, that is going to affect your bottom line at the end, because it does not it actually shows the lack of vision, it actually shows the lack of mission on your part. So expansion preparation is one way in order to manage the supply side, but that actually is something which lacks in so many organizations because of the fact that they don't actually understand the effects of business planning on service marketing strategy. Or you can utilize a third party, a supply strategy in which the firm uses outside party to service customer and thereby save on cost. I just spoke about using the third party workers or a part-time workers, travel agencies, assisting airlines, or may expose customer to competitive offers. So one thing you need to understand is sometimes organizations they use third parties in order to provide their service to the customer. One thing you remember here is that not all kind of businesses they can utilize third parties business models. It all depends upon the kind of service and how you think that these services can be stored and can be distributed to other customers. For example, if you talk about the example of the airline agencies, you will realize that you can get air tickets through three ways. You can actually visit the office of the actual airline, or you can buy it through some intermediaries on the physical level or an online level. So the physical customer, the physical agencies, we call them travel agencies, they may not be representing only one organization, but they may also expose you to different other kind of options which are available. So that is not just an opportunity, it's also a threat for those organizations who want their services to be distributed through different travel agencies. So, but yes, so many organizations all over the world are utilizing third parties because of the business practices they use. They must have some sort of exclusive arrangements. They must have some exclusive contracts through which they can work with third parties. So that when you are working on third party level, when you are using through intermediate, you need to understand the concept of third parties. You need to understand how what are the different implications you can actually face, and what can actually be different repercussions on your business. So every business model, every strategy you want to use, it has to be understood, it has to be rationalized before you implement it. And then you can increase the customer participation if you believe that you lack supply side, you do not have that much kind of employees, or you are not sure about how much customer you are receiving on daily basis. You cannot actually plan the supply side. What you can do is you can implement the customer participation system, and by using customer participation you can actually reduce the amount of labor that is needed to conduct your operation. So you go to a fast food restaurant and you know that they need a lot of staff on the back end, on the kitchen side, who are preparing all your meals for you. But if they have to implement a lot of labor for providing you people different kind of food arrangements on your tables, that may require additional investment on the business, and that investment may increase the prices. So if they'll just ask you, spend 2 or 3 minutes waiting counter and you can pick your food on your own, or you can go to the salad bar, just put the salad for yourself, or you can go to the beverages dispenser and you can dispense the beverage on your own. You may have seen internationally that majority of the pumps or the fuel pumps that you see, you have to pump the gas on your own. You just need to open the nozzle and you can just put the petrol, you can pay it later on. So these strategies, they actually reduce the labor that is needed to conduct the operation, and these things, they can help utilize the supply side of the strategies. So that is one way in order to manage the operations on the supply side. That is an amazing strategy. You must need to understand the concept and in how many. But you may if you talk about a gourmet restaurant, you will realize that they may not be serving you because that thing requires time. So every business model strategies have to be integrated and synchronized with each other. So the same strategy that may be suitable for a KFC style restaurant may not be suitable for a 5-star restaurant or any other kind of place that you believe is a gourmet restaurant where they serve a quality food. So the same strategy may not be working for all the different kind of businesses. You need to understand the model itself. And that in front of you guys is the collective interpretation, the collective strategies, where you can see these are the different challenges we face, and then you have these strategies to manage the demand side, and these are the strategies to manage the supply side. Thank you very much. I will appreciate if you go through the book and try to remember all these strategies because they're very much important. As I said, these strategies, we are going to use them again in services, pricing, and communication, distribution, or consumer behavior. So these strategies are very much important. I'm going to put a lot of effort in the class again because I still believe there are so many things to be discussed now, but I just left them out because I wanted you people to participate in the class as well. So we will discuss these things in details in the class. Thank you very much. Allah Hafiz.